archetypal relationship between dev design, it does persist in some ways in this sort of transition to service design. I think there are always these three pillars that tend to be true, and I think these were constructed by IDEO, the design thinking agency. This idea around, in order to build some sort of an innovative solution that works, it has to consider what's desirable to a user, which tends to be our strength. It has to consider what's viable for businesses, and it also has to be something that is feasible, that can be built, right? I think that conversation between those three pillars do persist. In the space of service design, we are building these omni-channel experiences, but it's not worth the business's time if it's not going to be profitable or make the business money. Yeah. It's also not worthwhile if it's not, we can't build it. So there are always going to be these ideal stories that we want to tell about what the most desirable solution should be for our users. But if we can't build it, is it really worth it? And I think that one of the unique challenges is in taking these ideas, these concepts, and these solutions, and breaking them down into something that we can deliver in increments, and improve the world sort of in increments. And it is a challenge, because as the idealist, you're always wanting to get to that ideal situation. You always want to get to that that solution, but coming back to something that I have sort of loathed, the reality of physics and mathematics and time and effort and tech, you still have to bring it into the world, right? Yeah. It's just a reality. Back to reality.
Exactly.
Don't we hate that?
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that or an observation that I find quite interesting, which is all three of us have experience working in consultancy, and also consulting in environments where teams are big, the stakes are big, the company itself is big, the money flowing through in and out it's big sums. And now we're all three working for scale-ups. And why I find that also interesting is, when you work for a consultancy, especially when you're consulting to a very large established brand or business, design has already proven to be impactful, and the value of design is almost already understood. I mean, we all know companies pay a lot of money to consultancies to have designers there. So the business understands where design fits in and the value of design. Where when you step into a space of either a startup or a scale up, that's a little bit different, which means us as the designers stepping into that space, our job becomes a little bit different. Because now, partially when we step into the space of a scale up or startup, a huge part of our job is also to prove and help illustrate what the value of design is in business, and how it actually translates to tangible impact. And I just wanted to hear what your guys' experience have been, either of you, because I definitely feel that my job has become a lot more emotional in a very good way. Stressful, not because it's faster paced, because that you can still have at a consultancy, but stressful because there's a lot more emotional attachment that you have, because the outcome that you're trying to get is not just a good design for the customer, but it's also a little bit more invested in the internal workings of business, trying to show your impact or design's value, so to say.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point, Steph. I mean, it's something that I'm also tackling head on in the spaces I find myself right now. And in my mind, there are sort of two distinct aspects to it. I think that there is a need for most designers to realize what their unique impact they're having in the business problem-solving process is. in order to sort of differentiate, which is I think that most designers don't really struggle with usually. I think we do know that it's about desirability. It's about creating these ideal journeys and experiences and reducing friction points or solving customer needs and pain points. I think the other part is that how do you tie that back to business value, right? And how do you illustrate the impact it has on that? And I think in order to do that, you really have to have some sort of a competence around understanding those business metrics that we are trying to move, understanding the business models that you're working within. And I've seen examples of designers who have done it well and designers who have sometimes unfortunately fell short of that, where they've created these like illustrious presentations of these new experiences that totally rip apart the business model. And really, I think in the minds of most executives and managers, the question would be in that moment, how is this going to benefit the business? It sounds like a great experience, but the experiences have to be tied back to a profitable business model. So I think that understanding the metrics that we're trying to move, are we trying to increase acquisition? Are we trying to increase conversions? Do we want to increase the lifetime value of our users? What are those business metrics we're trying to move? And what is the business model? And I think that going into an organization such as a startup or scale up, it's easier to get closer to what the actual business model is. What brings this business money? What brings us revenue? And I think that that's a great starting point for a opportunity where a designer can ask themselves, how might I use my craft to solve user problems and at the same time benefit the business and to add value to the business. So I do think that there needs to be an understanding of metrics and the business model in order to do that. Definitely.